Okay, welcome. Today we're going to start performing operations on polynomials. That's our objective. Can I add, subtract, and multiply polynomials? So go ahead and get your notes out. And remember to pause the video if you're falling behind to get caught back up. Rewind the video if you didn't quite understand something and listen to it again. And if you still didn't understand it, go ahead and put notes down on the side and we'll talk about it when I get to class. Okay, this lesson is heavy on procedure and not a lot on vocabulary. I want to talk vocabulary with you when I'm in the class. So let's work on how to do the operations. Now, the cool thing about the operations is you've already seen them. You saw them back in Algebra 1, and we also saw them when we did complex numbers. So this is not really new stuff. It's kind of review of the old stuff. So let's go ahead and take a look. Now, there's two ways to add and subtract polynomials. Okay, we've looked at the horizontal format, horizontal meaning flat. We've done that with complex numbers. It was combining of like terms. We're going to look at the vertical format. The vertical format is just a different way of doing the same thing. You'll get to choose the one you like, but it also mirrors how they taught us how to add larger numbers in the lower grades. So let's kind of take a look at that. I'm going to look at example A. So go ahead and let's write this down. Let's write down 2x cubed minus 5x squared plus 3x minus 9. And I want to add that to, remember this is our first polynomial. It's a polynomial with 4 terms. And I want to add that to x cubed plus 6x squared plus 11. Okay, again, horizontal format would be simply combining our like terms. Let's talk vertical. Now, vertical, remember, is up and down. So I'm going to take my first polynomial. I'm going to rewrite him. And as I rewrite him, I'm going to look and see what terms I have and don't have. This has 4 terms. This has 3. So I'm at least missing one term. And I'm not sure every other term matches up. And that's going to be the key, grouping our like terms. So it looks like I have x cubed. So I'm going to write 2x cubed. Over here I have an x squared. Here I have an x squared. So I can go minus 5x squared. Here I have a 3x. I don't have a linear term over here. I don't have an x term. So I'm still going to write 3x. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, hey, I'm going to have a space underneath for this. Then I have 2 constants. So there's my first polynomial. My second polynomial is going right underneath it. Here's my x cubed. There's my plus 6x squared. Again, remember, this is the term I don't have. So I'm going to look at that as a 0 term. So for a placeholder, I'll just write in 0x because it's not there. Then I'm going to go plus 11. So my setup looks like this. This is the vertical form. And I'm simply going to add straight down. Just add straight down. That's all we have to do. 2x cubed plus x cubed is 3x cubed. Negative 5 plus 6, just add the coefficients of the x squared. I should get plus x squared. 3 plus 0 is simply just 3. So there's my linear term, 3x's. 11 minus 9, or negative 9 plus 11, is simply just 2. We've added the 2 polynomials. Okay, we're going to do the same thing, and now we're going to subtract them. So let's see what that looks like. So here we did addition. Over here, let's do some subtraction so we can see subtraction in the same form. So again, I'm going to go with the vertical form. Remembering that I'm going to need that 0 term in there. Always got to have that placeholder. And if you forget or don't see it, it's going to show up because you're going to hit terms lined up that aren't alike. Meaning you could have an x here and a constant down here with no x. And that's a dead giveaway that, hey, something's not quite right. Okay, with subtraction, let's change the color. Let's go to, I've used blue, let's go black. I'm going to put this in parentheses and say, you know what, I need to subtract this whole thing. This whole thing. So the key to subtraction is I have to distribute through the negative. So what this becomes, after distributing the negative, would be 2x cubed minus 5x. I'm just going to rewrite it so you can see the distribution. Over negative x cubed. Again, I'm going to distribute through the negative. Minus 6x squared. Again, just distributing through the negative. Now with 0, doesn't really matter if it's plus or minus because it's simply 0. But to stick to the pattern, we will distribute the negative. And the positive 11 becomes the minus 11. And that is the key step. And now it becomes an addition problem where we simply just add straight down. So we get x cubed minus 11x squared plus 3x minus 20. So part A, we added. And then part B, we subtracted. Now, if you don't like this form, go back to the traditional of horizontal, where we simply looked at it in combined terms. But remember, the key step in subtraction is distributing through the negative. So go ahead and pause the video if you need to get caught back up or jot down some notes. I would take notes on distributing the negative and make sure you know that. And any common error that I find on these are we're not putting in a placeholder and trying to add two things that aren't alike, or we simply want to do our arithmetic wrong. For instance, negative 5 plus 6 somehow becomes a negative number. So be careful on your arithmetic and make sure your terms are lined up correctly. We're going to move on to some multiplication now. So three things: multiplication, and see how this is done. Now the multiplication, I prefer the horizontal format. It's just how I was taught and it works good for me. So that's the way we're going to work with today. And I'm going to multiply y minus 2 to 2y squared plus 3y minus 6. Now we've seen a binomial times a binomial, but here's a binomial times a trinomial. So we have two terms being multiplied with something with three terms. Okay, with two terms we learned the term FOIL. Doesn't quite hold true when you have a trinomial though, because we have three terms instead of two. So that's why we prefer the distributive property instead of the term FOIL, but it's essentially the same thing. We're going to multiply everything in our second parentheses by everything in our first parentheses, starting with a y. So I'm distributing through the y. This would be negative 2y, add the exponents, 3. So our exponents properties are coming back, plus 3y squared minus 6y. There's your first distributive property. Okay, now we're going to multiply everything by the second term in the first parenthesis. That's going to be, get your signs right, positive 4y squared minus 6y squared. So I got the second term. Let's go get this last term. Negative times a negative is a positive. That's positive 12. So that is multiplying using the distributive property. Lastly, it's simply combining of like terms. Now here we're kind of in the horizontal format. You can line them up vertically if you would like. I'm simply going to look for things that are alike. I have a y cubed. I don't have y cubed, so it can't be simplified for everything or with anything. So I'm going to simply write them down here and kind of cross them out so I know I've used them. I have a 3y squared, a 4y squared, and a 6y squared. And that 6y squared, something's not quite right in my mind. I'm going to jump back and double check that. This came from the second distributive. These two terms should not be the same, so chances are I made a mistake. Let's check it again. Negative 2 and negative 2 is positive 4y squared. Negative 2 and positive 3 is negative 6. Ooh, only one y. That should not be there, so make sure in your notes you scribble it out. And that's a good check. If something doesn't look right, go back and check it. Okay, back to simplifying 3y squared and 4y squared. That's going to be 7y squared. Again, cross them out. Let's turn my black marker back on. I have negative 6y, that's not 0. That's negative 12y. Again, cross them out, and that way you don't forget anything. And then the 12, the constant term, has nothing to combine with, so simply just add them down. So multiplying with the distributive property, this is what we end up with. And we've multiplied. Now again, I apologize I made that mistake. Again, it's a good illustration that, one, teachers make mistakes, but you guys know this. And two, if something doesn't look right, go back and check it. Go back and check it. Okay, so to recap, we covered adding, subtracting, multiplication. The key step in subtraction was to distribute the negative. Make sure that gets into your notes. And the multiplication is just distributive property. It's all about distributive property and combining of like terms. Hopefully this helps you, and I will assign a few problems to give you a chance to practice. Again, if you have any questions, write them down, but make sure you listen to the video twice if you don't quite understand the first time. All right, I will see you when I get back.